Hi, good evening, good evening, good evening. How are you? Let me just turn the lights on. That's it. Well, first day back at work after my 2-week stint in Gambia, which was interesting. I mean, you probably already seen the bit walking down the beach. What you haven't seen is the the days spent on Imodium and all the negative aspects of it, like everybody wanting, to offer you something for money. But anyway, overall, good trip. And I'm back today, and I'm testing out a new gadget, new bit of tech. And I don't know if you can see it. It's on my coat there. I bought myself a lavalier mic, or a couple of them actually. So, and that was because regular viewers of the channel will realise I was having a lot of trouble with sound issues, and that's because I've got two primary microphones. One was in the camera, which is in front of me, and the other one was in the webcam, the car camera, which is much poorer quality and can't really be used for YouTube. And the one on the phone can be used for YouTube, but it's still at least 4 feet away from my mouth and prone to although Google does a tremendous amount of very clever post-processing now on human voice and makes it sound very clear, but I thought the only solution now really is going to be to spend a 3-digit sum on a lavalier mic. Lavalier mic, whatever they call it. Yep, you can go. Well done. So, I've had quite a nice day back at work. I've done a 6-unit Maryland type bridge, 321, 123. 2 abutments, 2 Pontics, 2 abutments, for a lady who really didn't like her denture. A lower partial acrylic 1-1. And what else have I done? I'm going to turn right here because I don't like going the fast route back. It's too much like a racetrack at this time of night, and there's some very poor road design in there. I've got my diabetic appointment tomorrow with a nurse, and just indicate, there we go. And I shall be pleased to report, because I no doubt she's going to tell me to lose weight and move around a bit more. And I shall be able to say to her, I have literally, within 3 days, come back from a holiday where I had 3 eggs for breakfast, 3 small eggs for breakfast, a roll, some tomatoes, and for two weeks had no lunch apart from a cup of tea, and then in the evening had 2 pints of beer, weak beer, and 1 day out of 3 I had a dinner, and I walked at least 4 miles a day, every single day. And for all of that, right, just rewind it if you didn't just hear all of that. No lunch, hardly any dinner, walking 4 miles a day, and certainly apart from 2 pints of beer, not really consuming much. That's, how can I put it? No great hedonism in that. I lost the princely sum of 900 grams. That's not 900 grams a day, 900 grams over the 2 weeks. So much for eating less and moving around more. So I've decided that my weight, which has stayed fairly constant, you know, for years now, is pretty much set in stone, whatever I do. So what else is going on dentally? There's not much going on dentally. There is some just a quick follow-up to the Trump inauguration and all the executive orders that he signed on the first day. And one of them was he pardoned a guy called Ross Ulbricht, or Ulbricht, whatever you want to call him, Ulbricht. I'd call it Ulbricht. Anyway, he's was a guy who ran a website called the Silk Road, and Silk Road was a dark website, dark web. You know, it was off the normal search engines and dedicated really to sale and purchase of drugs. The idea being that Ulbricht had this idea that he's a libertarian and believes in the libertarian philosophy that everything should be allowed, providing you don't do any harm to others. And consuming drugs is it's a sort of a libertarian no-brainer. There's no reason to stop people taking drugs if they're not harming anybody but themselves. And so anyway, to that end, he set up this website, which was a sort of a Amazon for drugs, you know, where you listed what you wanted to buy, and you got a list of people who were selling it, and every seller had a number of ratings, and the more ratings that they had and the more stars they had, the more chance there was that you were going to get what you were ordering, and not some miscellaneous crystallized powder from some bloke that you've had to try and find through word of mouth on a street corner underneath a pair of sneakers hanging on a telegraph pole, that's going to give you something that's adulterated with drain cleaner. And as a result, nothing but good could come from this site, really. There'd be fewer people being rolled over in the streets and having their wallets nicked by people, you know, people who are searching for drugs not going to get robbed. People who wanted drugs are going to get drugs which on the whole were much safer and of a known quality, you know, if only by recommendation. And libertarians of the world united behind this site. It was not, it didn't entertain anything like child pornography, didn't entertain anything like guns and ammunition. There was some talk at the time that Ulbricht had tried to commission a hitman to knock someone off, although it wasn't really known whether he'd done it through the site or whether he'd done it, or whether he'd even done it. You know, it was just one of those. He certainly wasn't prosecuted for anything like that, but he was prosecuted for for selling drugs online. And for a 30-year-old, he was given two consecutive life sentences. Now, how you can serve two consecutive life sentences, I don't know, because obviously you can't start the second one until you've died from the first, plus 40 years. And this is a guy who had no previous convictions, etc., etc. And so the sentence itself tells you everything about the motivation behind the people who prosecuted him. What this was in the same way as Bitcoin is a serious assault on the primacy and sovereignty of national currencies. Silk Road was a serious assault on the narrative that the war on drugs is a war that has to be fought to the end of time. And the government, as we know, likes a war if the population is not, if you're not very popular with the population, then what you need is a war. And what you can then go to the population and say, look, I know you don't like me, but we're at war, and therefore we need to talk about getting together, and uniting, and standing together under the flag, and fighting this war. And we can worry about the fact you don't like me later. And of course, Margaret Thatcher found a war, didn't she? She found the Falklands War. Nixon found the Vietnam War, which was an altogether different type of war. That wasn't a popular war because the Americans were on the losing side of it. But the war on drugs is just a war. It's just another war. We're all being told we've got to stand together and fight it. Now, if you get to the point where really there's nothing to go to war about, people are, for the most part, happy with how they're getting their drugs and what they're paying for their drugs and the quality of the drugs, etc. In other words, if you've got like a proper free market, then where's your war on drugs? Where does it go? And so really they threw the book at Ross. They threw several books at Ross. And his trial is his mother, who I tend to think of in the same way as I think of Andy Murray's mother. Who's always there watching her son, etc., etc. And was forced to sit through this trial where she wasn't even allowed to talk to her son, and witnessed all sorts of procedural abuse in terms of hampering his defence, and because the verdict was always no. Right at the beginning, the verdict was no, and so it was a travesty of justice. And Trump, in going to the National Libertarian Conference about 2 months ago, promised to release Ross Ulbricht, and it's a testament to how profoundly felt that emotion was, that he should be released. That was the one thing they asked him to do, not to repeal any sort of laws or anything like that, but really just to release this one person who symbolised everything that was good and right about libertarianism. And it had in fact raised a petition with over 600,000 signatures on it for his release, and so Trump knew that it was a populist move. Now, Trump is, I'm not rosy-eyed about Trump. I know most of the time when he appears before any sort of convention, whether it's the Libertarian Convention or the Black African Journalist Convention, he tends for the most part to, he's briefed, he's told what the issues are, he's told what will be popular, he's told the sort of things to say to expect applause, etc., etc. And he said, and they said to him, like, if you want to get these guys on side, there's a couple of things you've got to say. One is you've got to say that there's a role in the world for cryptocurrencies. The other thing you've got to say is that your day one job will be to free Ross Ulbricht. And so that's what he did. And, okay, love him or hate him, you can't say he's not a man of his word. He's as a deal maker and a real estate developer and stuff like that, you can't get on in that world if you don't keep your promises. You have to. Your word has to be your bond. And so in his case, it is and it was. We're all in. I'm 75% of the way towards being libertarian. at the minimum. And so, of course, I'm completely happy about this. So, anyway, he hasn't said anything since it's been released. I suppose but he's going to make a triumphal tour of all of the Bitcoin conferences, etc., etc. And quite right too. And then it's going to be interesting to see where we go from here, because the chilling effect on websites selling drugs is been somewhat alleviated. Well, not, and that was the whole idea, was that sentencing him was to have a chilling effect on anybody else who might try the same thing. Because let's face it, anyone can practically open a Shopify account or a WordPress account and stick an online sales thing on and start selling, noddies and big ears and stuff with, where the people who buy them know what they are, but nobody else does. And so that has gone now completely underground, to the detriment, I would say, of the greater population. I think people they're paying far more than they need to. They're stealing money to pay for drugs because drugs are expensive. There's violence. The money from drug dealing supports a variety of other criminal activities, and so just decriminalising drugs is, it's a good. Peter Schiff in East Latest podcast makes a very good case for this, decriminalising drugs, and how stupid it is really to try and stop people doing what they want to do just because you personally disapprove of it. He says that he personally disapproves of a ton of stuff. He doesn't smoke, he doesn't buy Bitcoin, but he doesn't say that other people shouldn't do that, and if they want to, and that's my attitude entirely. Especially when you understand that most people don't really understand what drugs are. They don't understand. They don't understand that when they wake up in the morning, stick a spoon of Nescafe in a cup, that they're taking a drug. They don't understand that. They might think that aspirin is a drug. But they don't think that aspirin's a drug in the same way that cocaine is a drug. They're all, as far as I'm concerned, they're just drugs. They have different effects, So that's good news. Ross Ulbricht has been freed. And just in case you wondered who he was, it may be that you've heard that, and he is portrayed by the mainstream media as the devil incarnate, and the creator of the Silk Road drug sales website. And you might say to yourself, well, why on earth has he been freed? If he's such a, because this website was run by a guy who went under the name the Dread Pirate Roberts, and a lot of people think that was probably Ross. The way they caught him, funnily enough, was that he ran it from a laptop which he got on the internet at his local public library, and so to a certain extent he couldn't be traced, except that obviously there's a limit to how many free public libraries there are, and so they could trace the access back to the public library. It was then just a case of finding a load of bookworms who worked for the FBI, who were happy enough to sit around the public library all day until somebody gave them a nod that he was online. And then what happened was they waited for him to get up and, stand far enough away from his laptop for them to be able to grab it without him closing the lid, which would have obviously encrypted it all. And that was it. They had the lot. They were already logged in to the site. So anyway, I'm not feeling too brilliant I'm not 100% today. I'm still suffering, from the lansoprazole. Or rather, I'm suffering from the problem that required the lansoprazole. No, I'm not saying that. They sell a lot of Imodium in Gambia. But when I walked in, the pharmacist holding a piece of paper with it written on, the pharmacist said, "It's over there on the shelf," before I'd even taken 2 steps through the front door. And I was so bad, they had to give me orange juice on the plane, because I came over all queer on the plane. And I've got to say, that really perked me up. Just this little 1/3 of a, tiny little bottle of orange juice, and it's good for people who are feeling a bit weird, because it's got quite a sharp flavour. It's very refreshing. It hydrates you, and it's got just enough sugar in it to take the edge off if you're a bit hypoglycemic, in a sort of a slowish release form. So I think I might get some for the surgery. At the moment we're using Lucozade tablets, the glucose tablets. But they're all right, but they are a bit of a, if you have to spend a long time explaining to patients, no, you don't suck them. Yes, you do, chew. Talking of sucking, I was driving back from Gatwick the other day, 4 o'clock in the morning, I get flashed with a bloody speed camera. And I'm in one of those zones where it's 30, 50, 30, 50, 30, 50. And it's foggy, like you can hardly see your nose in front of your face, let alone the road signs, let alone the speed camera signs, let alone the speed cameras. So how on earth you're supposed to know when you're speeding in a pea super, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see if there was enough visibility for the camera to see what was going on. Apparently it takes about 2 weeks for the thing to get through, so it'll be round about the 4th of February I'll get a little letter. I'll have to make a decision whether or not to appeal it on the grounds of the fog, or whether to just pay it, stick it on somebody else's bill. As John Barrett, the solicitor, always said to me, he says, don't worry, Bennett, just stick it on the bill of the next person that comes through the door. He says, oh, what a boy. Right, I'm going to wait here. You are going to come round me. Good. Yes. I am now going to block the road, and this car's going to crash into me. Unless I can reverse back quick enough. I don't think I can. Oh, I've done such a good job of reversing around that corner. I'm not even on the drive. So I'll have a couple of tank tracks on the lawn. That's a bit more like it. Yeah, reversing in the dark. We all love doing that, don't we? So, as you probably gathered, this is more of a mic test than anything. So it'll be interesting to see how it comes out. If it doesn't work well, then I'll try the mic somewhere else, like on the seatbelt or something. Anyway, nice to talk to you. Sorry you can't see me. Here I am. I'll talk to you next time. Alright, bye.